I've actually never seen Back to the Future 2.
It's really, really good.
My dad was convinced that there was only one Back to the Future movie, and that's how I grew up. Because we were like, well, it clearly ends and it looks like there's a sequel. And it's like, no, no, there's only one movie. Don't be ridiculous. And then like I move out and I realize there are three Back to the Future movies.
Hi, and welcome to the We Need Roast podcast, where this week I'm joined by only Marie, because Ben is in La La Land wrangling rock stars, David is at a wedding, not his, he's still married, and Jose is still without internet thanks to the hurricane in Florida the other week. So there are only two of us here this week, but my only other co-host is all the way from sunny Portugal, and that is Marie. Marie, have you brought your tissues with you? Because apparently this is going to be a sad episode of We Need a Roast.
Yeah, and I also realized I just messed up because I don't usually wear makeup. It's just because I was filming a video, Halloween themed video, right before I came on here. So yeah, you might see mascara running. I don't. This just happened. We like just put all the films and TV we wanted to talk about on list, and we're like, ah, shit, this is going to be a sob fest.
It's yeah. I mean, any other reason to actually watch this episode on YouTube as well, folks? And in today's episode, due to a quirk of release date, somehow, Marie, you have already seen We Live in Time, the new drama starring The Pew, TM, and Andrew Garfield in Portugal. And you'll be giving us your non-spoiler thoughts on that, because we don't get the film in the UK till bloody January next year.
That is so strange. Like, because one thing, I love living in Portugal, don't get me wrong. But my number one complaint here is that we get nothing when it comes to films, like, especially when it's independent or like not a superhero movie. And so when you told me that you hadn't even like, it's not going to be released until like months later, I was just like, how the fuck did we get this? Like,
Was some of it filmed there? That's the only reason I could think of. Or like,
I know it's all takes place in the UK. So, yeah, some freak, like maybe some like scheduling issue or something.
yeah, it just absolutely didn't make any sense. And because it only had its UK premiere at the London Film Festival this week, a couple of days ago. You actually saw it before it premiered at the London Film Festival, because all my sort of film Twitter friends were like, oh yeah, we're going to go see We Live in Time tonight. I was like, Marie saw it yesterday.
It's so strange. Also, I love the film, the premiere, because Florence Pugh couldn't attend, and Andrew Garfield brought a cardboard cutout with him, and of her. That's just so funny, and the photos are just so adorable.
Yeah, so we're going to be getting a review of We Live in Time months before it's out here in the UK. So I'm going to have non-spoiler reviews of The Substance, and yes, we can already see Marie grimacing from that.
You're welcome to go full spoilers, because there's no way in hell I'm seeing this movie.
I don't think I'm going to go full spoilers, because I've got my own opinion on it. So I'll give my opinion, what I thought of it, without spoilers. But then there are two other reviews I've read. One was a 1-star review, and one was like, I don't even know how many. I don't think they gave it stars, but it was like this rambling, almost semi-incoherent praise. But it was an amazing review. So I'm going to shout out both of those reviews later on, because both the ladies who wrote them, you need to read the female perspective on this film. These are the two reviews I'm going to recommend later. And another film that has, been very interesting in terms of its, everything, is Joker 2, For Later Do. But what else do you have, Marie?
Running along with the theme of the Sobfest, I'm going to be talking season 3 of Heartstopper, because I am a huge, huge Heartstopper fan, and this season absolutely destroyed me. I can already feel the tears coming. And
I take it. Have you you've watched the whole series now? I take it.
Yeah, of course. I tried to pace myself. Like, I gave myself 3 days. Like, I could have watched the entire thing in one day, but of course, because it's like Netflix, you watch it all at once, and then what? You have to wait another like year and a half until the next season. It also kind of dawned on me that season 4 and book 6 will probably be released at the same year, and that's the last of it. Like, so we're gonna get the conclusion in like both book and TV, probably within the same year. So I'm gonna be a wreck
For the whole year.
yeah.
Finally, in our spoiler section today, we're going to be talking the first 6 episodes of Agatha All Along. We're also going to be talking all 6 seasons. Well, not all 6 seasons, but a show that ran for 6 seasons that I was really late to the party on that I have just binged over the last month or so. Yes, we're going to be talking the best Canadian sitcom of all time. We're just going to be talking Schitt's Creek as
I
well.
still can't believe it took you this long to watch Schitt's Creek. Like I watched it during COVID, like when everyone was watching it when it got really big.
I was going to my comfort shows then, which meant a 2 rewatches of Parks and Rec and a 2 rewatches of Community, pretty much on the loop every day. Now, Jose was there was like a 50-50 chance Jose might have joined us today. He hasn't because we haven't heard from him because he's had really spotty internet. So if Jose had been here, I was going to cut this section, but we are going to briefly mention some trailers that dropped. And first of all, you actually sent this to the WhatsApp group, which was the Invincible season 3 teaser trailer, which was such an amazing trailer.
As someone like who works in marketing, that was just brilliant. I loved how the way how they did that. And also I loved how they like took a dig at the mid-season break they did last year because it was so annoying. But yeah, I'm so excited for Invincible. Have we discussed Invincible at the pod yet?
I think me and Ben and David had discussed it in previous seasons, and Jose's a big Invincible fan.
Yeah.
So we will discuss it when it rolls around again, which it's going to be dropping on February the 6th. So not too far away. I like 5 months, but enough. And they said, and like you said, the big selling point of the trailer was, oh yeah, we're not just going to go and dick around for 4 months. Invincible takes so long to produce, but I just loved the meta-ness of it. It was so funny. I mean, and that's the thing. I think everyone felt that the breaking the season in 2 really hit the momentum of the show.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were gonna do that. And then I just remember like catching up and I'm like going, wait, what? Now I have to wait like a couple of months till the second half because it's not even a long season. So it was really strange.
Well, Apple also just dropped the trailer for a show that I really liked the first time, although I found it a bit hard going in some places, but also it's sci-fi. It's a bit like Fallout and it has Rebecca Ferguson in it. Therefore, I am there day one for Silo season 2. It's funny going back to Silo. It's just, I really enjoyed it, but every time I was watching it, even the first season, because I knew Fallout was coming, I was like, this is like if you had the Vault Dwellers storyline, but that's it. It's the whole setup of the show is people are born, live and die in this vault because of radiation, and if you go outside, you'll die. Also, if you ask too many questions, you'll probably get sent outside for whatever reason, and you'll die. But is it real? Is it actually? The whole kind of setup of the season is some people are just like, nah, that could be bullshit. And Rebecca Ferguson's character is obviously the main key character, and she's there thinking, oh, is there something more? I mean, there's such a big name casted. Tim Robbins is in it playing a villain, which is really good. You don't see him do much. Again, Apple, when they do quality shows, they get big actors who generally have never done TV before or don't do TV regularly. And yeah, like I say, Rebecca Ferguson, I mean, she's produced one of this. But as much as I enjoyed it, I am just like, this is just the Vault Dwelling storyline from Fallout, but with less humor because it's quite serious. And when the show started, again, I'm not going to give spoilers for season 1, but anytime anyone's stuck in a vault, you're like, this show could only end one of two ways. This season could only end one of two ways. They either get out and it's all a lie, or they get out and it isn't all a lie, or they half-ass it and it's some kind of combination of both.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell people what it is, but now Fallout's out there. I'm just kind of like, I want a bit of fun with my post-apocalyptic, I want some. I like my wasteland psychotic giant animals.
You want Matt Berry as a robot.
You always want Matt Berry as a robot, even Matt Berry not as a robot.
True.
And that is a great segue because the next show we're going to talk about has robots in it, and that is Star Trek Lower Decks season 5.
Yay! Although I'm not quite sure if I finished season 4 yet, but
well, it's a muted yay for me because it's the last season. But why would you stop doing this show? Like,
it's so much fun. I'm not even like a big Star Trek fan. Like, but I checked out Lower Decks because I like Jack Quaid. Like, yeah, just in love with him. So I checked out Lower Decks and I was just like, oh my God, this show was so fun. And like, it also like completely like I had like expectations for the show and it completely shattered them. So I'm like I really do need to finish it, but because it's annoying because they did the split thing where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
half of it is on Amazon Prime and the other half is God knows what, like where.
Paramount Plus now, I think it's
Oh
gone
yeah.
to. Yeah.
There's no way. Not, you probably need to edit this out because I'm revealing a secret here. Because there's no way I'm paying for Paramount.
Paramount Plus is just when it launched, it didn't even have 4K streaming. Like, why even bother launching these days? Like, if you're going to be a streaming service, really, why bother?
It's another streaming service I forget that exists.
I think I watched maybe two or three shows on it, and actually there is one of them I'm going to mention in a minute that I is on Paramount Plus that I watch. I think a lot of people in the first place were really snooty, like some of the the OG Star Trek fans. They were like,
Yes.
"No, you can't do like a Family Guy style animated
Yes.
comedy." But I think it slowly won them over. One, because you had so many of the classic characters
Hmm.
come back to voice their characters, and if you are a fan of the shows, there are so many Easter eggs, and it's such a they just get it. The people who make I think it's is it Mike McMahon is the guy who is like the showrunner, creator, co-creator of the show, and he just nails it so on. I mean, the Deep Space Nine episode. If you've never watched Deep Space Nine, you'll still enjoy it. But if you know Deep Space Nine and you're seeing an animated version of what you used to watch in live action, I mean, we will get you onto Star Trek, Marie. We will start you
I
off
mean,
with
I,
Strange New Worlds.
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the series. I've seen the majority of the movies. Like, I've seen Wrath of Khan because that's like the iconic Star Trek movie.
Yeah,
I've seen like the rebooted series, and I feel like I might piss some people off. I like the J.J. Abrams movies. I really like them. I think they're fun.
you needed to in some ways you needed to modernize Star Trek for a modern audience, but obviously like a lot of the OG fans didn't like that as well. But
Mhm.
I think Star Trek it's kind of like the Bond films. There'll be a really good one, then the pants one, a really good one, and the pants one,
Yes.
and it always seems to go that way no matter what. So, like like Into Darkness with Benedict Cumberbatch, who definitely wasn't Khan, even though everyone knew worst kept secret ever. And but then the first episode, the first Calvin universe one, as they call it. But the problem is they get it all mixed up because Spock from the original one comes into that, and then it just confuses it all. You're like, but wait, what's Leonard Nimoy doing in this? And the same thing in the TV shows. Like Leonard Nimoy turns up in this, you're like, but that, yeah. So I would say if you're going to get into the shows, start with Strange New Worlds because me and Ben, I think it was our joint top show of the year last year. Maybe it was, yeah, it was that The Last of Us and The Bear would like all got the same amount of points in our thing. But what Strange New Worlds does so well is it's like a really good gateway because it's set before the original series takes place. So in terms of stuff happening, again, if you haven't seen the original stuff, it doesn't really matter. But then also, all you really need to know for the setup of season one is the captain, because that his character and a few of his bridge crew, they were introduced in Star Trek Discovery, and he has this premonition of how he's going to die, and that's kind of like the whole his main kind of storyline when that show starts. But what it does brilliantly is every show it kind of jumps genre.
Mm.
So although it's sci-fi, one of them's a fantasy show where a little girl's storybook comes alive and everyone suddenly is acting out in like so like the captain is suddenly a court jester and things like this. And they did a musical episode which is right up there with the best musical TV episodes of all time. If you've ever seen
Oh,
K-pop rapping Klingons.
interesting. How is it compared to Once More with Feeling by Buffy? Because that is the best musical episode. Like,
I think the Star Trek one's up there because they reference Once More with Feeling as well.
okay.
There's a bit where like literally someone says something and they go, "Could it be bunnies?" And he's like, "Yes."
Okay, okay.
But then they're like, and when they introduce like like the main alien bad guys, they are genuinely scary. It's literally like something out of Alien. There's a bit where there's one episode where they get trapped on a small planet, like awaiting get trapped on there, and they find a shuttle, and it's like, oh, these were the young ones. These are the children of these monsters, and they've killed everyone. So you don't even get to. So just it's that whole thing where just the thought of seeing a grown one of these monsters is terrifies everyone. There's like a war episode where like you find out how the doctor used to be like. No, I won't say what he used to do before because that's a spoiler. But you find out what so like every episode there was a courtroom drama to do with basically because Star Trek when it's at its best always used to tackle like social and political issues through the prism of sci-fi. That's what
Hmm.
all good sci-fi's always done. And that's where I think Discovery and some of the more modern ones kind of lost it a little bit because
Yeah,
they were
I
just
hated Star Trek Discovery. I watched
yeah.
season 1 and I just could not continue.
I think I got through to season 3, but I wasn't enjoying it. It was more like a they've done trans rights years ago in stuff. They did it right back in like the Next Generation. They did that. So and everyone, it's funny because everyone goes, "Oh, no, it's you can't talk about Star Trek." Star Trek has always been at the forefront of like dealing with issues like that. And I've talked way too much about this already. So moving on.
This is not a Star Trek episode.
It's not a Star Trek episode, although it definitely seems like one now, and I'm going to
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
pull up all the gifts for that. So let's move on to, before we get into the reviews, what have we been watching? Marie, what have you been watching just shy of what we're going to be talking about? This is where you say, I haven't had time to watch anything.
yeah. I mean, I haven't had time to watch anything. I finished the Orville. Like now that we're on this topic of
Great segue.
Star Trek, which I really enjoyed, and like yeah, like what we discussed it when I was like I think in season 1 before on the pod, and you were just like the show like transformed so much in the final season, and boy, you were right. I was just like, how was this like the same show where like you cut off someone's leg and hit it in the ceiling? Like it's it's so I really enjoyed it, and actually like I mean I don't know if we're getting more. Are we getting more? Is it?
I think they want to do more, but there was a whole because it was made by Fox originally, and then it went to Disney Plus, and so I have no idea. I know Seth MacFarlane wants to do more, and I mean, fair play to Seth MacFarlane. I know he cops a lot of shit for his acting, but as the show goes on, you kind of realize, and I think he realizes that look, I'm writing it, I'm show running it as well. That I don't need to be the main character, and the storylines get really well shared out amongst all the characters in there. And again, it does that great thing, like like the whole storyline with Bortis, and
It's so good. Like it gets so deep.
yeah, and you don't expect that from the guy who did Family Guy, do you?
No, you don't. And also, like, which yeah, it really took me by surprise. And the final episode, like the current final episode, like did like I think I've got like my own like essay like structure like working on it because like there were some like really interesting ideas in it. I'm like, ooh.
Well, in that last season, some of the episodes were so long as well. They were basically like mini movies,
yeah.
weren't they?
Yeah.
I think they almost thought, well, if this is our last one, we're just gonna like every episode is gonna be like a different kind of classic sci-fi story that we want to do. So, what have I been watching? Well, I have been watching a lot. Like, I mean, as standard. But I finished season 2 of The Rings of Power, which I absolutely loved. It's such an improvement on season 1, and I didn't hate season 1. I just thought season 1 was just okay, okay to good. I thought season 1 was, and as I said before we start recording, I met David for lunch the other day, and he was a big fan as well. And I was like, "But David, is it better than House of the Dragon?" And he was just like, "No, I'm not comparing them." I was like, "That means it is because you don't want to." I think it left House of the Dragon Series 2 in the dust in terms of its epicness, its scale, its visual beauty, but most importantly, its storytelling. And it's easier to follow than House of the Dragon because even my parents could follow it. Yes, they might not have known everyone's names, but the way the various storylines are you kind of jump between them, it sorts into different races. Oh, this is this is the elf storyline. This is the dwarf storyline. This is the Harfoot storyline. This is the Numerian storyline, and that's basically it. I like how the characters who didn't really have a lot to do and weren't that great in season 1, they've kind of shaved down their time a little bit in this series, and just how they give these big hero moments. You don't remember like Legolas gets his big hero moments, doesn't he? He jumps off something and does some cool stuff with arrows. They do that with characters you've barely ever seen in the show, and then if that character dies, you're like. And they do it in a scene or two, so they really bring the emotion. I mean, there is a battle scene in this episode, the Siege of Eregion, that takes place over 3 episodes. And this season, there's a new MVP in actor Charles Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, who is the maker of the rings. I can't remember if he was in season 1 or he was just or he's like briefly in season 1. But he's out without doubt the best single acting performance in this whole series. He's so good. Oh, and also we get some Balrog epicness in with the dwarfs as well. If you ever wanted to see a dwarf fight a Balrog, then you get that in season 2 as well. I think I mentioned this earlier that I think at times this season was as good as the original trilogy, which is the highest praise I can offer. And like I said, 2 of the episodes were edited by former guest on the podcast, Dan Crinian. And if you want to check out Dan's interview about his career and working on Killing Eve and Extraordinary, which he was the editor on both, check out episode 64. I'd love to get Dan back on the podcast sometime, but also I think Amazon snipers are just trained everywhere for any mention about even confirming like season three's coming out. Getting back to Paramount Plus, one of the shows I actually watch on there is Sylvester Stallone's show, Tulsa King, which again on paper, Stallone's output has been, since his glory days, has been kind of patchy. But this show is about he plays a former New York mobster, Dwight the General Manfredi, and he gets out of jail in season one for a crime he didn't commit, but he took the fall for it for like years and years. And then when he comes out, like all the guys he come up with are all old and retired or dead. And so the new boss sends him off out to pasture in Tulsa. So of course, Dwight being Dwight, he turns up and he's like just trying to like do small crime and start up a gang again, start up his own like illegal businesses. And I really enjoy it because it's actually from some of the producers of The Sopranos, but it's got a lighter touch to it. It's got a lighter touch to go with like all the gangland beatings and occasional murders. But Stallone's really good in this show because he's like a man out of time with the modern day, and when he like finds out about dating apps or Uber, he doesn't know what Uber is because obviously he's been in jail that long. So it's really funny. And season two has really lined up some great adversaries for him. You got Frank Grillo's Kansas City mobster Bavalacqua, and then you got Neil McDonough's Fresher. Also, it's only 40 minutes an episode, which is again, more shows should be 40 minutes. Half an hour, 22 minutes, too short. Anything over an hour, I don't always need an hour of stuff.
I've got commitment issues. I like long stuff.
Also, there's another new show that's dropped in the UK, and it stars Ella Purnell, Lucy from Fallout, and it's called Sweetpea.
I've seen like trailers or posters for that, but I have no idea what it is.
So she plays a young lady called Rhiannon, who is basically invisible and gets treated like shit by everyone in her life. And as the trailer to the show implies, she is definitely going to snap and murder some people. Yeah, you can watch the whole thing on Sky in the UK, and it's like dropped as a box set, but I'm piecing it out one episode a week because I just don't want to. There's a lot to watch at a minute, and I really enjoyed the first step. And she really walks the fine line well between sympathetic victim and maybe actually she is really crazy. It's a really subtle balance in this kind of show. The show is darkly tragic and funny at the same time, although it really reminded me in certain places of the Irish show on Netflix with the girl from Bodkin in Siobhan Collin and this show is called Obituary, and it was about a woman who starts work at a newspaper and then starts killing people. Well, guess what? Rhiannon works at a newspaper as well, and someone gets the job she's after in the first episode. Although I think Sweetpea might go in a very, very different direction. But also, if you like Sweetpea and you've been watching it, go and watch Obituary on Netflix because they're making the second series right now as well. And they've added Mairead Tyers, who plays Jen in Extraordinary, to the cast as well. So all the best Irish actors in that show. I mean, they just need to get Liam Neeson in it now for a cameo, don't they? Perhaps she could murder Liam. That would be good. That'd be good. Get him in a TV show and murder him. And breathe. Also, much overdue, I have watched the first series of a BBC drama that I also missed. Like, everyone was raving about the show a couple of years ago, and I never got around to watching it. And I'm still a full season behind on it. But this show is called Sherwood, which is ironic because I've literally just spent the weekend in Nottingham. And my friends are coming from there tomorrow. But this was one of the shows of the year when it came out. I think it came out about 2022, the first series. And it's a really good 6-part drama about murder in a small town Nottingham community that has ties going back to the miners' strikes of the 1980s. It's got David Morrissey from Walking Dead in it and loads of other like TV shows, and Leslie Manville amongst the cast as well. So it's really sort of top drama with great performances, a little bit of sort of social history, if a little grim in places. I mean, there's one murder that I did not see coming at all in that show. I was like, wait, is it going to be a murder in every episode now? I started watching it. There isn't, but some of the murders you do not see coming. And also there's a guy running around killing people with a crossbow because, Nottingham. So, Robin Hood, bow and arrows. I will shortly be moving on to the second series of that soon, which also dropped earlier this year. So, Marie, next up, a film that we've mentioned we don't get in the UK till next year, and that film is We Live in Time, the new Pew and Andrew Garfield drama from John Crowley. Tell us as much as you can without spoilers.
I mean, one thing I can say about this movie, if you've seen the trailer, you've kind of seen the movie. It's one of those situations, and I want to say I did not hate the movie. I thought it was a very beautiful movie. However, I did not cry. Maybe because I came in because I don't know which premiere it was. I think it was premiered at some festival in the States. they were handing out tissues, like branded tissues, for the movie premiere. So I thought this was going to be an absolute sob fest. Yeah, I mean, there some moments got me a little bit misty-eyed, but yeah. So the story is basically almost entirely focused on Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. Florence plays a chef called Almut, and Andrew plays a IT guy who works for Weetabix called Tobias. I'm wondering if Weetabix paid for a sponsorship in that movie because they get mentioned a lot.
And in a positive way, like no one chokes on a Weetabix in it.
No, no. Yeah, I always find them very dry. I'm not a Weetabix fan. And the movie is what makes this movie unique, that it's not told in chronological order. So it's like told out of order, and it follows their love story. And I mean, I can say this because it's in in the trailer, and her getting sick as well, and
Ah,
how they
okay.
deal with that. Like the movie starts with them at the doctor's, and then like it kind of flashes forward, flashes back. Like they do a very good job of always knowing where you are in the story through like costuming and just like the background.
Haircuts.
Haircuts, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Florence does have a tragic fringe through the most of it. Andrew looks pretty much the same. But they do that, and it's mainly a character study. It's mainly those two. There are some other characters weaved in and out of the story, but we mainly follow them. I'm not sure if this is a spoiler because it's like, as I said, you see the trailer. Uh, uh, uh,
I mean,
uh,
I saw the trailer and I literally looked at it and thought, this is one of those films where one of the main characters is going to die.
Yes. Okay. So, and I think that's kind of the idea of it because
Yeah.
it's no matter like if someone's with you or if they've passed, like you still have those moments with them in time. Like they're still there. They're like you still are with them. And I hence the
Hence the title
title.
of the film. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think that's the overall message. I do think like the ending got a little bit cheesy, like the whole not telling it in chronological order a bit towards the end, it kind of fades away. But amazing performances from both of them. And it's definitely worth the watch. I'm dead inside, so maybe that's why I didn't cry.
Yeah, I
But
did see comments online from a lot of people who saw it at the London Film Festival this past week. You were just like, yeah, like absolutely. I think it was Luke who posted a comment just saying about you screenshot it, didn't send it to me, but like everyone was just like weeping into their seats in it. I think the
yeah,
thing is though, you go into this kind of film knowing it's going to be that kind of film, don't you?
exactly. That's the thing. It's like because I have my chocolate, I have my tissues ready, and I
Emotional support donuts.
emotional support donuts. Unfortunately, I did not smuggle those in, but they come into later, play into later. Um, but one thing it did also like really remind me of is All of Us Are Strangers, which
Okay.
fucking destroyed me. Fucking destroyed me. um, but because it's also just focused on two characters and their
Yeah.
story. But I went into that not knowing anything. Like I don't think even the trailer revealed anything. So
No.
it took me completely by surprise. Whereas this one, yeah, like it's one of those cases also like the funniest scenes in the movie were already in the trailer. It really bugged me. If you're gonna go see it, don't watch the trailer. That's my number one recommendation.
I mean, I've seen the trailer, but I can't remember anything about it.
That's
One
good.
of
Don't
the
rewatch
Yeah,
it.
I'm not going to. I mean, in 4.5 months' time when it actually comes out in the bloody UK. I mean, I did see a really good comment where someone said basically this is like the film version of Florence Pugh's cooking videos if they were sad.
Yeah, I mean that's also not really I
No?
mean she is a chef and like it's kind of a bit of a through line, but yeah, well it is kind of a major through line because like being a chef is like very physical activity and like she's not in the like physical like her body doesn't support that anymore. But I don't know. As I said, it's more character than story.
Hmm.
It does have a fabulous birth scene. I do have to say
When
that.
you say fabulous, do you mean really well done and nice, or absolutely shit scaring and traumatic for people?
No, really well done and actually really funny. I
Oh,
really
okay.
enjoyed how they did this. And like I mean like because there's only like so many ways you can do a birthing scene, and this one was like honestly, I think it sounds weird to say the highlight of the movie.
I mean, we are in the year when we've had the first Omen and Immaculate come out. So in terms of, and I don't think I. Oh, and of course, well, no, it was the first series, wasn't it, of House of the Dragon, where you're like, we did not need to see that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mentioned this in the cancelled special, but I'm still scarred about the one from Sense8. Like that one just kept on going and going and going. It's but this one was actually quite sweet.
Well, that's a very good segue there because from birthing scenes, I'm going to talk about a film that has definitely a birthing scene that you will never forget if you've seen this film, and that film is The Substance from director Coralie Farge, and I apologise for the pronunciation, but she's French, and I've definitely pronounced that badly or wrong. Comes one of this year's surprise horror hits, The Substance, which it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes for Best Screenplay and has gone on to horrify audiences worldwide. And the basic plot is that Demi Moore's fading movie star Elizabeth Sparkle is about to lose her job on her 50th birthday as like a TV workout star, and she gets into this accident on the way. And as she's at the hospital getting discharged, this very fresh-faced, young-looking, in well, junior doctor or nurse just slips his card into her pocket that says, "Do you want to be, young again? Call this number, The Substance." And the substance is an injection which has a surprisingly large amount of instructions to follow that will create a younger version of yourself. Elizabeth immediately takes it, doesn't question it, goes to some random lockup and just goes to this box, security box, and takes out the thing with all the instructions, and then just injects it into, like, that was my thing. Like, I think at certain points in this film, I was just like, why are you not questioning any of this? But then, because they don't question any of it at all at any point in the film, you just, okay, that is the world of the film, we're going to go with it. And you get some horrific body horror scenes as Moore's Elizabeth literally births a new self out of herself. Luckily, it's not, when I say birthing scene, it's actually through her back, because you've seen the poster with all the stitches, and the new self comes out of her, and it's a younger, prettier version of her, and she calls herself Sue, and of course she's played by Margaret Qualley. And the idea is they have to trade back once and forth a week and never go over the time limit. So when one of them's out there living as normal, the other one's just like laying there with a needle sticking out of their arm on the floor in the bathroom. Which, of course, being a horror film, we know what's going to happen. And I don't want to get too much more in the plot other than that, but I would say if you're not a fan of needles and injections, do not watch this film because it's the most needles I think I've ever seen in a film.
So is it like consciousness? Like they switch consciousnesses, or like
No,
how
there's a
does it
new
work?
body, like a
So
literal
it's a separate human, but then
separate human just bursts out of her back, and then she gets
okay.
stitched up. The new person, Sue, literally stitches her up and then leaves her for the week. Goes out and has fun being young and beautiful in Hollywood for the week, but then she has to come back and trade places with Demi Moore's
But then
character.
how does that make her young again?
It, it doesn't make her young. It just gives a new you, as it were. And when there's a few issues occur and like they ring the number that's with the injections, they're like, and he said, "Well, look, she's doing this, and I don't agree with it." And the voice on the end of the phone's like, "There is no she, there is only you. You are the same person, just split across two bodies, and you take it in turns each week." And that is like the crux of the film. I would also say if you're very squeamish in terms of body horror, this film goes so hard. And the last 20 minutes are like a Giallo fever dream where I couldn't believe I was watching this on a mainstream cinema screen. In fact, I tweeted as much and we got retweeted by the director. So, yay.
Yay!
Which would be good when she hopefully wins something at the Oscars this year. And look, Demi Moore, it's performance of her career, just hands down. She's so good in it. And again, and Margaret Qualley as well. They are fantastic as the two sides of the same person. Dennis Quaid's in it as well as like the really sleazily awesomely bad. Well, he's bad at being really. He's really good at being bad, just like the sleazy agent producer guy. But the film's just really a two-hander between those. Most of the scenes is just the two of them going back and forth, or even just them by themselves. There's a lot less dialogue you would imagine in it than it is in it, and they both put in awards-worthy performances. I mean, I left this film in a daze when I came out, and I immediately gave it like 5 stars on Letterboxd, which I still stand by. However, I also acknowledge the film does have some issues. Like one of the things that I kept thinking when I was watching it is the sheer perviness of the extreme close-ups and the way it's filmed, and just the overly sexualized way Sue is presented, and it really makes it. But I think it's done on purpose by the director because I think if it was filmed by a man, one, you'd be questioning how can you even film it this way in this modern day and age, but two, When because it's been made by a woman. As you're watching it, you're like, this is uncomfortable, and she's really. I'm sure that's what a director is going for when you're watching it. It's not like titillating in any way. You're just watching it going, no, this is a bit too much. And definitely do not eat before seeing this film.
Oh yeah, you were debating about that. What did you actually go for in the end?
I didn't eat before the film. I literally went in with a bottle of water and I grabbed a takeaway on the way back afterwards. But again, I had that about an hour later.
I was about to say, were you able to eat afterwards even?
I think it's really horrific if you're going in thinking you're going to see a drama slash horror that's kind of mainstream, and it goes so far into the body. I mean, it's like if David Cronenberg. It's like you inject the film with 60% David Cronenberg, but when Cronenberg was doing The Fly, you know,
Oh God.
that's that kind of gooey. I mean, one other thing I got to shout out in the film is the Foley work of the sound, because I think the sound makes the film 200 times more disgusting than it actually is. I think if you just watched it without the sound, you'd be like, "That's gross, but it's not too bad." But the squelching noises and the just yeah, it's or the oozing noise like that is this should win best sound editing hands down. Now, I don't think you're going to hear anything worse in a good way this year. But I mentioned earlier on, I would recommend two further reviews of this film, and I'll put the links in the Twitter bio for this. One is by Yasmin Valentine on Dextero, and she gave the film 1 star, but she gave really good reasoning for her review that you can't really argue with. And one by former Empire editor Terry White, who posted this on a White Noise Substack. So if you're on Substack, look up White Noise, and her review is hilarious. It's just so funny. If to be fair, you should just follow her Substack anyway, because any review she writes is amazingly funny and just but deep as well. So yeah. And next up, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but from director Todd Phillips came a sequel that no one really wanted to do. And after watching this film, I don't think the star or the director did either.
Oh,
So Joker was a surprise hit in that it took over 1 billion at the box office, and until Deadpool Wolverine was the highest box office for an R-rated film of all time. And of course, it won Phoenix a Best Actor Oscar for his portrayal of Arthur Fleck, who becomes a Joker, not the Joker, which you associate with like all the DC universe. And like I say, the Phillips first film was kind of like this Elseworlds DC story that doesn't tie in any way to the wider ongoing DCU. It felt like a one and done as well, to be honest. However, money talks, and with a budget of close to 200 million for the sequel, I imagine that at least half that money is sat in the bank accounts of Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, because I don't know where it went on screen. And look, the film has had mixed reviews. Like I think, and the weird thing is, and I'm going to get into this in a bit, is that I think people who loved the first film absolutely hate this one, and people who absolutely hated the first film don't mind this one and kind of actually quite like this film.
see, this is why I mean, I've been actually curious to watch it because at first I was like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna watch it because I hated the first one with a violent passion. I thought it was so stupid. It's just literally Joaquin Phoenix going like this the entire time. Like what? Like what is that movie? I hated it so much. But then the feedback that I hear about this movie, it's like Todd Phillips is making fun of people who loved the first movie. So I'm like, maybe I should go see the second movie.
Yeah, I mean, the first film kind of had a bit of a rise for like the basement dweller bedwetter incels on the internet kind of really loved it. And so it's almost like he went, what would piss them off more than anything? And then he's gone and made that. So, I mean, yeah, the film has died an absolute death at the box office. As of October 15th, when I researched these stats, it had taken 166 million worldwide, but apparently it needs to hit between 375 and 400 million just to break even. And arguably, I think the film's biggest problem is in the marketing, because even the trailers, it still pretends it's a comic book movie, when in fact, and this is what the film really is, it is a downbeat, depressing courtroom drama slash musical. Yeah, they hid it's a musical in the trailer, and even the director and Lady Gaga had to say it wasn't a musical in the traditional sense in all the press and previews they were doing for it. There was no music in the trailers.
I knew it was going to be a musical because they talked about it beforehand, and like the trailer had just Lady Gaga singing in the end, like just a little bit, and I'm like, oh no. I generally do not understand why like studios keep doing this because we had the exact same with the Mean Girls musical, where they hid that it was a musical, And like everyone was just like, "Oh, I can't believe they're remaking Mean Girls," and I'm like, "No, they're not. They're making the musical
Musical,
version
yeah.
of Mean Girls." But they just why make a musical and hide that you're making a musical? It's just gonna backfire in your
Especially,
face.
especially when you cast Lady Gaga, who's got such a
Yeah.
legion of fandom. If you went, this is a new Lady Gaga musical, and actually show her singing in the trailers, people would go and see it. I have no doubt it would have done better if they promoted that. And but I also think some execs were like, no, 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 because we're gonna lose like the basement dwellers if we do that.
Yeah, I mean,
We
if
lost
it's
them anyway.
yeah, I mean, one thing that kind of like shows to that is like when it came out, like they were like, Joaquin Phoenix can't sing, and I'm like, walk the line. Like it's just like it
Literally
comes
won an Oscar, didn't he, for it?
exactly. I was just like, but they're not really film buffs, so they don't know that.
Well, so let's get into the basic plot. And the basic plot of the film sees Phoenix's Arthur Fleck incarcerated after the events of the first film. And he's a shell of his former self, physically and mentally. He's regularly abused by the guards and the other inmates, including a very good, as always, Brendan Gleeson. He meets Lee, so Harley Quinn, but she's called Lee here, at a music therapy session where he forms an immediate connectment and attachment with her. And then we kind of progress to the court case with almost all of the musical sequences. And I'm not 100% honest. I think all of the musical sequences are just extended fantasy scenes. And you're just like, so it's not really happening. And as it's going on, I had this theory from the start, and I'm not going to confirm it here, obviously, but I was just like, I mean, folie à deux literally means a shared psychosis. So I was like, is everything that's happening in both their heads or just one of their heads? And I thought that would have been kind of a cool twist. Like, you know, you watch the film and the whole relationship with her and him, and then at the end, it was never real and it was just imagined by one of them. I thought that would have been a really cool way to do it. But they kind of do something similar in the first film, which I'd forgotten about when I was watching this one. But not to that level. You know, I thought it would have been a nice kind of like, you know, Fight Club moment where you're like, oh, wait a minute, he's just imagined all this.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I say, the weird thing about this film as well is, despite being a musical, it's got no original songs in it. So the songs they sing in it are kind of classic standards, as you'd call them. So stuff like "Close to You" by the Carpenters, or "Get Happy," or "That's Entertainment," or "Gonna Build a Mountain." "That's Life." You know, they're all like classic songs you would like. You know, your parents would listen to.
So not even a musical, it's a jukebox musical, which I honestly really
Yes.
hate those. I think they're so unoriginal.
And then the problem we have is that a lot of these songs are usually sad and downbeat versions as well to reflect the shittiness of the situation like Arthur's in. And Phoenix, who we know can sing from Walk the Line, won an Oscar for it. And I listened to an interview with the director on a pod last week, and everyone was like, but he's singing them kind of badly. And he's like, well, yeah, but he's singing them in character as Arthur. And so I can see why Phoenix isn't like belting them out really well. And I can see the reasoning behind it, but it just doesn't work. Because if you're watching a musical, you don't want to see someone sing badly, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Like, what it's actually reminding me of as you were describing this to me, it kind of reminds me of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Where
I
have
never
you?
watched that.
You've never watched
No.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? We need to do like an underrated show list because that's on mine. But basically, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a musical TV show. All the songs are original. All the songs are genius and funny. But all the songs take place in the main character's Rebecca's head. And Rebecca herself can't actually sing. That's kind of like the joke, like one of the jokes of the main movie. Of the TV series that Rebecca can't actually sing, but every time she's in the musical sequences, of course she can sing brilliantly because it's her fantasy. So it's just like so stupid. Why if it would be someone's fantasy, but they still would suck
Still
at
be
something?
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely get that. I mean, you could argue, I suppose, if you took it to that level, that because he's like just, you know, there's like a running joke where, like, apparently when he first came into prison, he would tell jokes. But when we catch up with him at the start of the film, the guards are like, "Oh, you're going to tell us a joke today, Arthur?" And he just doesn't say anything and like walks around sadly the whole time. So look, here's the thing, right? It's not this one-star disaster film that many people have made it out to be. It's a really well-made film. Like it looks gorgeous. It does look really nice.
I mean, I don't
Cinematography
deny
is,
that from the first Joker movie either. Like, the
yeah,
cinematography was great. It was just shit. The story overall.
and the performances, like Phoenix, is still really good in it, and Gaga, as expected, is really good. Though she doesn't have a lot to do. She could have done with a lot more to be do with, if I'm honest.
I heard that.
But and look, I think a lot. Why a reason a lot of the people hate this is these are portrayals of a Joker and a Harley Quinn. These are not anywhere close to the comic ones we expect or recognize in any way. And I think that's fine because they're not supposed to be in this film. But a lot online has been made of how this film almost seems like an attack on the character of the Joker himself in response to, like, as we mentioned, the bedwetting basement dweller fans who just so loved the character in the first one. And so the fact that director Phillips chooses to spend almost the whole film tormenting Arthur and taking him apart and just absolutely eviscerating the character of the Joker at like its very core. I mean, I think it's a ballsy move to do, man. Like, I quite enjoyed it, and I think I admire the crazy big swing it takes in terms of audience expectations. Like, they didn't want to make this film, and so when they finally decided they were going to do it, they just decided to do the biggest fuck you they could do with 200 million. And it's weird because a lot of people in discourse have gone like, "But that's not a good thing." I was like, I don't know. I kind of
If
like it in some.
it's a good thing if it was intentional, if it was a big fuck you to studio. But the thing is, Todd Phillips kind of puts himself on a pedestal, so I feel like it was still intentional. Like they made this thinking it would be good.
Yeah, you know what? Like you say, I think it's definitely worth if you didn't like the first film, I think give this a watch as a curiosity. And if you did like the first film, do you know what? Give this a watch anyway because it's still good performances. I just say, look, it's worth a watch as a curiosity, but be prepared for a really dour, depressing film.
Yeah, I might save that for like at home viewing, not so I can pause and leave. I mean, I've know the entire plot because I've seen the spoilers for this
Hmm.
movie. And can I just say the Harley Quinn reveal is stupid. It's just like that's one of the main reasons I cannot like one of the reasons I'm so like I don't want to watch this movie because that is my girl. Like that is like I am such a big Harley Quinn fan, and the fact that we haven't had a good representation of her on the big screen is just ugh, really annoying. And so like when I heard that Lady Gaga was playing her, I was like a bit apprehensive, and then I like looked into her whole entire storyline. I was like, oh no, oh no.
I just don't think she's in it enough and given enough to do to really affect the plot that much. Like I say, the film is basically just how can we torture Arthur Fleck? How can we just destroy the character of the Joker that was put on his pedestal by people after the first film?
I just don't understand why make her like a inmate of Arkham instead of actually what she was, like a psychiatrist. Like what? Like the way the plot that would have worked anyway. I just ugh.
I just don't think they had any interest in telling a story connected to any existing storylines or characters that we recognize.
I mean, that was this case with the first one as well, and I was just like, then why do it?
Bother.
Then what? Yeah, exactly. Why bother? Why take the name the Joker? Because that's just exactly just to fill seats. Like, if you want to tell like a
I
complex
think that's
story
it.
of
I
a
honestly
man
think
losing its
that's.
sanity, do that. You don't have to put the Joker label on it.
I think the problem is though, if you don't put the Joker logo on it, you get a really good film, probably awards, but it doesn't make nowhere near as much. It doesn't make $1 billion at the box office, and that's the other side of it. Sadly, it's all about money at the end of the day. But we are going to move from Joker 2. We're going to wave folle adieu to Joker 2 and moving on to a show I've never watched, but I feel you're going to implore me to watch after you've gone through this. And that show is Heartstopper.
Yay! After that, after like the last two depressing movies, let's have something fun and upbeat and extremely gay. Uh, yeah. So I love Heartstopper. I am like such a big fan. I read the comics during lockdown. Yeah. Like for those who don't know, Heartstopper was originally a comic created by Alice Osman, and I think it was originally up on Webtoon, and then it actually got published into a proper book series. And it follows the love story of Nick and Charlie and their like teenage romance, and it's just so beautiful and uplifting, and the artwork in the comic is also really really cute. And I think I read all the comics that were currently out in like a day, and then I heard like they were making a series and I got so excited. And like I mean she is actively involved with this series, and you can tell because they do such a good job of adapting the comic. There are just like moments like you can like compare them, the shots like between like the comic book panels and the shots in the movie. They did a phenomenal job casting the and this. I mean we now know how talented Joe Locke and Kit Connor are, but like at the time when they were cast in season one, they were unknowns. I mean, Kit Connor was in the Elton John biopic,
Rocket Man.
Rocket
Oh, was he
Man.
like
He
young
was playing
Elton?
exactly. He was playing the young
Ah, okay.
Elton, and then Joe Locke was a complete unknown.
One quick question: Is this show take place in England or America?
No, England. It takes place in
Isn't it? It's a
England.
British show.
It's a British show.
I
It's a
had no
very,
idea.
very British show. No. Hope story takes place in England.
So is Joe Locke British or American?
He's British.
I had no idea.
You had no idea
Because
because of Agatha.
yeah,
No. Yeah. He's very British.
okay.
Yeah. No. Nick and Charlie meet in form, which I don't even know what that is because
We used to have what was called, and this is going back hundreds of years, called sixth form. So when you're doing your A levels,
yeah, well, like because they're in different classes. So like Nick is in sixth form, but then Charlie's in fifth. There's 1 year age difference, but they
okay.
have that one class together. I don't know, it's a British thing. Anyway, it's not really that important. They meet, it's very adorable, and the first season came out in 2022. And now we're on season three, and it's just happy. It's uplifting, but then at the same time, the representation of the show is so good. It is. I've spoken to a lot of my friends about this, and I've seen this uh, on Twitter as well among the queer community. All of us are like, we wish we had this 15 years ago because it would have just, let's just say, clarified a couple of things way more earlier. Like from like personals, like I shouldn't be surprised by this because like Alice Osman is also Ace, but in terms of Ace representation, it is so good. They created a series original character called Isaac, which is really like it's because the comics mainly focus on Nick and Charlie, whereas the TV show does introduce more characters and follows their plot lines. But his story was a major one around the end of season two, and then they brought it back because there was some discourse among the ace community, which I could understand what they were coming from because they were like, not all aces are shy and read books. So I'm like, well, I'm an ace that's shy and reads books, so I can understand. But this season they made like he was really struggling with his ace identity, and that was something that hit me hard. It's where the tears came, and like him coming to terms of the fact being ace, it was just done so well, and the way his friends supported him. This season, I think overall is a lot more heavier than the previous seasons, which I think just because the characters are older and like the story is maturing. I also am reading that people call this the raunchy season, which I find so funny because it's still so innocent. Like, yes, the characters start becoming sexually active, but it's nothing on the level of sex education, and it's all like fade to black. So, like, when I see like the raunchy season of Heartstopper, I'm like, no, like it's just over the like you don't. It's just like the covers are there. It's nothing. It's not really nice. Yeah, I don't. If you want something feel good, I always recommend Heartstopper. And it's also like visually beautiful because they do such a good job, not just like copying the panels from the comic, but also like introducing her artwork throughout the sets and everything like that. Like, so even the show has like a bit of like a whimsical look to it because they have like her like drawings throughout. One thing they do really well is they include like in comics, like when like you touch someone, like you can see the sparks or you can see the hearts, and they actually include those animations, which I think makes the show really visually unique.
That reminds me of the first time I saw anything like that was probably something like Scott Pilgrim all those years back.
Yeah, it's around that, but a bit more subtle than Scott Pilgrim. But it's like yeah, you see like little animated hearts, you see like little animated sparks, and it's just really cute. It's really weird that I'm zeroing in on this, but there was like a Christmas tree there, and the decorations of the Christmas tree was like all her drawings, which I thought was just so sweet, like the way they decorated it. So they really respect the source material and keep it following through. It's really looking like season four is going to be the last one, which makes sense because there's only one more comic left, which hasn't been put out yet. And also the characters are getting older. I mean, the story takes place like within a year, but it's been like 3 years since season 1 was released. So
In the real world, yeah.
in the real world, so yeah, the actors are getting older, but the story is still like in this small like time frame taking place, so it makes sense. One thing I was going to say about season 3 is like there's quite a lot of time skips, which is like one of my big pet peeves, but they do a good job of like not making them too jarring, but it does skip large chunks of time. But again, it makes sense because suddenly these characters are getting way older and like no longer looking like teenagers. Another thing I can say about it, even though the cast is like quite stacked, unlike Sex Education, they do a good job of balancing the cast, and it's still primarily focused on Nick and Charlie, and the subplots are like weaved in pretty well. It doesn't feel like overwhelming, whereas like the final season of Sex Education, it was just like, who the fuck are these people? It
Yeah.
was just so much. Here they do a good job balancing it. I can ramble about the show forever, but I I think I'll wrap it up because I just yeah, it just puts such a big smile on my face. It's such a feel-good show.
I think I'm going to add it to the list because one of the shows we're going to be, well, both of the shows we're going to be talking about in our upcoming spoiler section are very much linked to Heartstopper.
This is actually really funny because, like, yeah, the Heartstopper and the Marvel world don't really interact. Although Charlie is a massive Marvel fan, which is really funny. So that he's now technically part of the MCU. But yeah, I feel it's really funny because people are like seeing Joe Locke and Agatha and Googling like what he's done, and then they discover Heartstopper, and it's like way completely different.
And then, like me, go, wait, he's English?
Yeah.
And if you haven't guessed, we are going to be talking about Agatha All Along in our spoiler section. Play the spoiler alarm, Ben.
Give me an S. Give me a P. This is taking too long. Spoilers ahead.
First up in our spoiler section today, we're going to be talking Agatha All Along. And as Catherine Hahn pretty much stole the show in WandaVision whenever she was on screen, and she got her very own spin-off, which went through a massive number of name changes before they finally settled on Agatha All Along. We finally are now getting Agatha All Along. And that was a terrible segue. But anyway, the show begins with Agatha as a detective in a Scandi noir series, which I absolutely love. I love the fake titles. I love the look, the aesthetic of it all, the way she sounded like she was like in an episode of True Detective or something like that.
Yeah.
I just like, yeah.
I was so confused though, like because when I first started, I was like, did I start the right thing? Like, did I miss something?
Well, and it starts off like every Scandi noir with a woman dead in a forest somewhere. And Agatha's going about the case as normal until Joe Locke's teen, because we don't know his name yet, breaks into her house and pulls her out of a spell that Wanda had put on her. And of course, now remembering who she was, Agatha needs to assemble a coven of witches to walk the witches' road and regain her power. That's the basic brushstrokes of the series. What did you think from the start, Marie?
I was so surprised. Like I think like most people have been getting a lot of Marvel fatigue recently, and this show, like I wasn't gonna watch it, but then I had a friend over, and like we always watch Marvel stuff anyway together. So I was like, oh, you're here, like we might as well see it. And then the first 2 episodes were just so good.
Yeah.
It honestly blew my mind. I did not expect it to be this good. I was just like, it was something like, oh, let's check this out. And then I was like, oh, like we can I can admit that the ballad, Witch's Road ballad, is just an absolute banger. It is
the various different versions we've heard over the episode so far.
It's been going through my head ever since the first one. But yeah, I mean, Catherine Hahn is just amazing. Anyway, I did not expect it like to be bad. It's just even with like Marvel, with good actors, recently the stories have been a bit meh. I can say that. And no, I thought this was really original. And yeah, the way they started it with her like still in the trance and us like figuring it out and how they introduce teen into it. And then just I love the entire aesthetic as well. Like as like someone who nerds over costumes, like the costuming is so cool.
And not just each episode, like different in each episode, there's different when they transition from like on the road to whatever the trial is they're going to be in. The outfits just change based on
change, and it's so good. But also like they're like basic outfits that like dark academia style. I love it so much.
I like I say, I love the first 2 episodes. I love the meta-ness. I love the connections to WandaVision. But I thought episodes 3 and 4 were a little bit repetitive in terms of it's one location. Here's a trial we have to do. It all felt and looked very soundstagey.
See, I don't agree with you. I do feel like they're not as strong as the first two. Like the first two
Yeah.
really bring you
I'm not
in.
saying they're bad. I'm just
No,
saying, yeah, 1 and 2 were right up there, and these
right
two
up
were more
there.
like, yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like we've been really spoiled with TV, and I'm like, it's okay to have filler episodes. Like it's okay to be like
You can
have
do a
a
bottle episode, yeah.
yeah, a meh episode. And I also like read like this was like the cheapest Marvel show they ever produced. Which I like I don't think we can see, but I think it's really like interesting because I think you do just need good actors and doesn't matter like the set or the production. Are you laughing
She,
at David?
yes. For the listeners, David, who couldn't make it today, is at a wedding and he's threatening to crash the podcast from a wedding. Which
I mean, I've got the power. Like I can let him in or I can't. But has he
I
seen Agatha yet? I don't think
I
he
don't think he
has.
has. No. So no, sorry, David, you're barred. Just enjoy the wedding and don't get too drunk. One thing that I think hooked everyone from the initial trailers as well was Aubrey Plaza, basically April Ludgate, grown up and as a witch. Yeah, and again the brilliantly named Rio Vidal, who absolutely stole all her scenes so far. And like I say, it's really heavily implied that she's a former lover of Agatha as well. And she's just
Okay.
got this but she's got this absolutely insane chaotic energy in every episode. It's a little I feel like her characterization's a little bit uneven so far. Because she turns up in episode 1 and immediately tries to kill Agatha, and then sends the Salem 7 after them. But then, as episode 3, I think, when she joins them as a replacement Green Witch, she's now running away from the Salem 7, who she called in the first place. So I was just kind of like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's just kind of the summary of any lesbian relationship.
murder,
No, it's
summoning
all up and down.
witches.
No joking, but yeah, the thing is, like, I think I might know the reasoning behind that. Um,
Well, speculate away.
no, I can't speculate because the
All
thing
right.
is, I've been spoiled, and so I'm not going to reveal it. But the fact of how I've been spoiled is just so annoying and so stupid that I'm going to say it. And apparently, this is a common occurrence. I was spoiled by Funko because Funko Pops they have to release the
The
Funkos,
toys.
like the
Yeah.
toys, so they kind of know the plot. And they leaked, accidentally like released something. And when I saw it, I was just like, ah, shit. So I cannot get into detail, but it was so stupid. It was so stupid how this got spoiled for me because I saw this and I was just like, why Funko? Why would you do this? So be careful with Funko for spoilers.
Right. I mean, I'm not a Funko person, so that's good. So I'm.
I'm not either. I don't know why this popped up on my Twitter feed, but I just saw it and I was just like, ah, shit.
I might also just block Funko Pop on the mentions as a keyword now as well. But also at the end of episode 5, she's completely absent. Like when the other witches get sucked into the mud, and then at the end of episode 6, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more depth in a minute, she's not even mentioned
Yeah.
as the character whose name we will reveal in a minute. I have a theory, and this is apropos of nothing, just from watching the show, not spoiled by a toy like you have been. I have a theory that Rio is actually dead and is a ghost of some kind. And that's why she keeps appearing and disappearing. That's why maybe Agatha looks really haunted by her appearance sometimes. Perhaps she killed her, and that, killing a lover could easily be on Agatha's list of crimes. So that's my rough thing in a minute. Although she has interacted with the other characters. So that kind of throws a wrench in that. But hey, she could be a ghost that other people see as well.
Oh, I can see so many people screaming at you right now.
Right. Well, I guess
No,
that's good or bad.
Yeah.
Hey, to be fair though, my other big pick from the early episode, right? I thought Mrs. Hart was going to be the big bad because I really wanted to
Yeah,
see
you
Kitty from that
messaged me
70s show as an uber villain, and then she's literally the first person to die. I was like, oh come on! I've also been watching that 90s show, and it's not a great show compared to that 70s show, but her and Red are so good in it still. It's just like literally no time has passed since that show finished till they did that 90s show. And a clue. So let's move on to the big reveal because we've literally just watched this episode yesterday and today as we record this. And the big reveal at the end of episode 5 hopefully surprised quite a few people. Although
you called it though.
Well, I called it because I've been listening to the Empire podcast, who are doing their spoiler podcast, and someone posited that in I think their first episode. They went, well, from the comics, because there's obviously all these characters exist in the comics, someone said, well, what if it is Billy Maximoff? What if Joe Locke is Billy Maximoff, one of Wanda's kids? And again, that reveal at the end when you see the power, the crown, the Scarlet Witch style crown appears in him, and then the Billie Eilish track
and
kicks
Billie
in.
Eilish on top of that. That was just, it was such a good ending. It was so good. And like I think it was also one of the shortest episodes, because I think that episode like went out, like finished in like a flash, and it just ended. I'm like, wait, that's it?
Yeah, it was about 25 minutes if you took out the like end credits as well.
Yeah, see, I didn't guess it. Because I knew he wouldn't be Agatha's, because they were talking about her son way too much, and I was like, there's no way that's him. But like I only know Wanda's story in relation to the X-Men. Like I don't know her own story, so don't.
But did you watch WandaVision?
I did watch WandaVision, yes. And Multiverse of Madness, and yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
I liked Multiverse of Madness, but it's a funny thing, because like Wanda is like tearing up the universe, fighting Doctor Strange, killing the X-Men, and the whole time her son was just down the street from her. Like...
Yeah, and I thought WandaVision still is the high watermark of Marvel TV shows.
Yes,
I thought
I
it was
agree.
superb. That is the only Marvel show that just literally emotionally destroyed you onto the same level as like other shows. And the fact that you see her go through, realize she's kind of the villain, you see her like give up her kid, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that's why in the film suddenly she's evil, just like that. And I was like, no, like you can't spend 10 hours, well, however many hours and 10 episodes doing all that character development to suddenly just change it in a film because she'd be a cool villain. She's an amazingly cool villain. She's like the fucking Terminator in it when she's just killing all the X-Men.
When she's going through the glass as well, that was such a good scene.
That was like straight out. And I really like Sam Raimi. And like the Evil Dead nods in it were amazing. That is it's probably the scariest Marvel film they've done. But I really had a problem with the way they changed her characterization. But I don't think she's dead. Like, yeah, you can drop a mountain on her. It's Wanda.
No, I fully expect her to show up at the end. Like because I did not think she was dead at the end of Multiverse of Madness, and then everyone was just like,
Flash,
oh, she's dead. It? I mean, yeah, there's the Flash, and there's the whole rule about filmmaking. Unless you see a body, it doesn't mean they're dead. Dead. And even that in Marvel, that doesn't stop, apparently.
No.
We've got a Doctor Doom reveal we had at Comic-Con, which confusing. So yeah, I fully expect her to like appear at the end somehow, like maybe end credit scene, or maybe even the last final scene.
It's going to be something like where like Billy literally turns around and goes, "Mum," or something, and then there's like one shot of her, or he just says it, and then that's the last shot or something. But on to episode 6, which is the newest episode as we record this, and it is a Billy episode, pretty much a whole Billy Joe Locke tour de force episode. And yeah, like we said, Billy is Wiccan, which we pretty much called from day one. And I love that.
I didn't.
Fair enough. But I love that Patti LuPone's character is the one who put the sigil on.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming.
And of course, as is explained in the earlier episodes, even the witch who puts the sigil on will then forget. Mm-hmm. So we're still not 100% sure why she does it yet, because we've not had that scene yet. But I love how they do the accident. So when the character William Kaplan dies in a car accident, that's when Billy, who must just be kind of roaming around
his
in
soul,
the spirit world, just possesses the body and comes back. And then, because I was like, okay, it's just amnesia or something. It's a spell. That's why he doesn't remember. I always thought, because the way when he could hear his parents' thoughts, I thought, okay, so whatever spell was put on him blocked that. So I thought he was always been, but no, he was never that guy. And that explains why he looks like Joe Locke now as well, which is a clever way of doing it. So I admire the writers on that side of things, because I thought, oh yeah, you're going to have the standard. He doesn't recognize his life and his parents' trope. He can hear people's thoughts. I did love that how he becomes obsessed about finding out the truth with his boyfriend. I thought that was very cute and funny. And that scene in the car park where he's like, yeah, who doesn't want to get murdered?
Yeah, that was really cute. And
and then the reveal of Ralph Boner.
Okay. I need to talk about this, because I hated the Ralph Boner reveal in WandaVision. It's the only one that I truly, truly hated, because like it was like, oh, are we finally getting like an X-Men like MCU crossover? Like, is this like are we gonna get this Silver Surfer now? And no, it wasn't. Because he was like cast to play fake Pietro. the X-Men are part of the MCU. So it's just like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? And also the fact that they named him Boner, that was just such a cheap joke. Like, but
What
then
was his online name? It was like Bonerman69 or something.
yeah. I mean, the scene itself is really good because Evan Peters is like an
He's
amazing
really good.
actor.
In fact, that is the best he's been in the whole show in that one scene. You're
Yeah.
watching that scene, you're like, he is moving. The acting is like going up a level there, isn't it?
Yeah, so I didn't mind the scene, but like when I like heard like the username, I was just like, oh no, they brought back Ralph Boner. Like, why? Like,
I gotta admit, I didn't realize it was him, and I wasn't 100% it was him until the scene started. And I was like, wait a minute, is that Evan Peters? Quick Google. Shit, yeah, there's Evan Peters. And then I was like,
wait, you recognize him with a beard?
no. But also, I completely forgot that he got married to Agatha in it and was like her fake husband and all that. And I just, because I've got WandaVision, I bought there's a lovely 4K steelbook that Marvel released of it that I've got. And I haven't, I've started rewatching it and I didn't get to that episode again yet. And also, the other reveal, Ralph kills Sparky.
Yeah. The one thing I cannot tolerate is animal deaths. Like, oh.
Although one thing that made me laugh is once after they have that scene and he learns about the Agatha and the Witches Road and all that. I'm sorry, you can't just Google ancient witches, man. Like you can't just. I'm pretty sure you can't just like go and Google. I mean, okay, you can Google ancient witches. The look on your face suggests, but also
I mean,
within
I think
the
maybe
terms
this
of
is
the
like
show.
a generational thing because I thought, of course, it would be on Google. Like, like it's like people would have noticed. Like I mean, there are so many like different like time traveler theories floating around online.
Yeah, and that's what they're playing homage to in that scene, aren't they?
So I get maybe he found it a little bit too fast, but then again, like Gen Z, so
TV, and they need to do it.
yeah, and I was gonna say he's Gen Z, so like
I love that Agatha was Jolene. That was hilarious.
yes, that was such a good like not even Easter egg, just like a like nice little like background joke. I thought that was hilarious.
And after that, for comedy, I mean, I absolutely loved seeing the other side of the scene from the first episode with Agatha thinking she's a detective and she's got the water gun and she's in cop mood, mode, and just the way she's sitting and like
she's sitting and she's wearing the Boner t-shirt. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I missed that.
On her t-shirt it says Boner family reunion. It's so
I missed that.
funny.
Yeah. The bit with the pen where she's just like absolutely not writing anything that would be legible or readable in any time. You do not want to poke the bear. I loved it.
I liked it as well because like from like the first scene, you kind of think Teen is like a bit of a badass because it's like shot of him like getting away and robbing him. And then when you see it actually from his perspective, it's like it wasn't. You just like was stumbling around and cursing the entire time and going, oh God, no, this is a bad idea. This is a mistake. This is not what am I doing? And I thought that was really funny.
And of course, you got that brilliant line in the house where he literally comes out and goes, "No, I don't want to go back in the closet."
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that was brilliant. That was so funny. And then we come back to the present day with Agatha climbing out of her tar pit, literally into feathers. So she's literally been tarred and feathered, which made me laugh. And then, of course, Billy breaks the sigil. And also, Lila and Jen are dead. And then I love the scene with Agatha just recounting her various murders. Like, how many, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was at that point as well, though, that I actually realised that's when Billy found the body of William. It was only when Agatha said that. Because when it actually happened, I didn't realise. I just thought he was that character trapped in that body all along.
Oh.
Because obviously, when we last see Billy and Tommy in WandaVision, they're still kids. So he absolutely could look like that as a teenager. So, but then the way, like we just mentioned, the way they got that. And Agatha, I love the fact that she's so villainous again here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the shit she comes out with, Robo Papa, and calls him Toby as well. I was just like,
it is. She does such a good job because like we see like the softer side of her like in the previous episodes, but then we can also see just how selfish she is and just like is so like willing to just step over literal bodies just to get to the end. And Catherine Hahn does such a good job of like playing villainous, but villainous with charisma. Like
I'm still waiting to see somewhere. Someone's got to have a GIF ready somewhere of her and Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec, because I'm sure they shared scenes together when they were both in it.
I think they only ever shared one scene.
I need to find out.
Yeah, it's when April was interning with Ben in Washington.
That's it.
And Ben is just like, "Oh, April, you can go home," and like she literally like just drops the glass of champagne and runs out. And Catherine Hahn character was like, "Okay, so who was that?" So
So yeah, and I think this was a much more dramatic, slightly less I mean, it's still very campy and still very gay episode, but it was a lot more. Like I say, Evan Peters' scene was really dramatic for the overall tone of the show.
I mean, the whole story of Billy is like dramatic because like the parents like lost their son, but they don't know they lost their son. Like if you think about it, like
Well, and this leads into the next thing I was going to say is how do we think the show's going to end? Because we've got another 4 or 5 episodes. I think it's like 10 or 11, isn't it? For this show. But they've already confirmed that they are going to be doing a White Vision TV series.
ooh, I don't think he's gonna pop up. I'm not sure. Oh
I
no,
mean,
we've only got 3 left.
Is it only 3? So
Yeah,
that was
I just checked the
6,
thing I
7,
sent
8,
you.
9. That's it, because usually it's 8. It's 6 or 8 usually, and then we got
Yeah,
9.
it's 9 total, and then basically only 2 days because they were releasing the final 2 on the same day.
The overarching theory is that Billy is going to join the Young Avengers because at the minute it literally is all girls, so there's no boys on there at all. Because I think you got Riri Williams from Wakanda Forever. She was introduced in that. I mean, I had to struggle to remember. You've got I can't remember her name. You've got Haley Steinfeld's character from Hawkeye.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember her name. I know she's got Pizza Dog, and that's very cool. But and you got her. You got Yelena, and I think that's it so far, isn't it, for the Young Avengers? Someone was joking about the very bad Incredible Hulk son that everyone's trying to forget from the end of She-Hulk, who turned up. But,
no.
With the worst CGI hairline of all time. But yeah, so I think that they're on about him being in the Young Avengers, which I think if you got someone of Joe Locke's sort of stature and star rising in a minute, absolutely you put him in like a Marvel film, don't you? As like one of the co-leads as part of a team.
I don't even know that Young Avengers has been confirmed. I think it's just because we're noticing all these like teen characters suddenly popping up, and you're like,
they're trying to work towards it, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely, hopefully. Yeah.
I mean, I think Agatha, I don't see her making it out this season. I think she dies at this season.
Yeah, and I think maybe Wanda kills her finally. I'm not sure. I mean, I was saying this throughout the entirety of WandaVision, and I was proven extremely wrong, but they did name drop him. So I want to say I'm right, but I feel like Mephisto is going to pop up. Seriously, I mean, I didn't have a podcast when WandaVision was releasing, but I was texting my friends the entire time going, it's Mephisto. Like, he's behind this. He must be behind this. Like, he must be. Like, this whole story is leading up to Mephisto. And then the whole thing.
Okay, well, now you've got into it, because Agatha's son is called Nicholas Scratch, who is a warlock and a character in the comics. So I did a bit of reading about Nicholas Scratch, because I thought, and that's like a nickname for the devil, basically. So are they going to actually have her son be Mephisto? Because they could do it that way. In the comics, he allies with Mephisto or works for him, I think. But you could just cut out the middleman if you want to be quicker about doing it in TV or movies. So that could. It's funny because on the Empire podcast, they do their spoiler episodes on Agatha every week, and whenever there's a Marvel show out, they do a spoiler episode every week for about as long as we do for the whole podcast for one episode. And it became a running joke from, I think, the first show onwards. Mephisto confirmed. Mephisto's going to be in this.
I mean, they name dropped him in episode 3. So I'm just saying, why name drop him if he's not going to, they're not going to play it?
Agatha's son comes back.
I mean, to be honest, completely forgot about him, but it makes sense. I mean, they do mention him quite a lot.
He's a character.
Yeah,
Nicholas Scratch.
And they showed the name. So there are like plenty of Easter eggs. Because I want to be surprised, so I haven't been diving into the Easter eggs that much. Although I did notice something in episode 6, which when his boyfriend texts him, he writes, "You are my heart," and it's a black heart.
Okay.
And I was just like, surely that's not a coincidence, because when they opened the Witch's Road, they're like, we need a black heart. And that's how Mrs. Hart got evolved. And then everyone thought it might be Rio, but I was just like, that's just an interesting color for an emoji. I feel like that was intentional.
Well, I mean, he's a goth teen. That's probably it could just be as simple as that. But yeah, then again, it could be definitely more, couldn't it? Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know how this show ends. I think Agatha could die. I think we could have Billy join the Young Avengers. there could be some of the Young Avengers characters. That was it. Oh no, there is another Young Avengers thing. They are definitely doing it because at the end of the Marvels, have you seen the Marvels?
Of course I have.
End credit scene, Miss Marvel turns up to see Kate Bishop.
Yes.
That was it. That's how you say. And she
Okay.
and she does the whole Samuel L. Jackson thing of I'm putting a team together.
Yes. So yeah, you're right.
So they are definitely going
Kamala
ahead
Khan.
with it.
We forgot one major one.
I forgot Kamala Khan, who's literally the best one of them. She is like the spy. She should be, if people weren't like sexist and racist in the comic book world and the internet, she should be as big as Spider-Man because Miss Marvel was a delightful show.
It was, and I also really like the Marvels. I generally
had
do not
no problems with the Marvels at all. I think it comes down to people not liking Brie Larson for just basically telling people to stop being dicks. It's what she did, and then everyone hated her. Well, not everyone. Basement dwellers.
Basement dwellers. Yeah. No, I mean the cat scene was so fun in the Marvels.
How can you not love a Flurkin in the film, man? A fucking Flurkin.
I want a Flurkin.
Juice. Right, I think we need to wrap up this because we're definitely going to be back and talking about the last 3 episodes in a future episode quite soon. So now, only 4 years late, I want to talk about a little Canadian sitcom that I totally missed at the time called
that no one talks about. No one knows this show. This is like underground.
Yeah, right. Like it didn't win a shitload of Emmys and was like billboards all over the place. It's a little Canadian show that just appeared on Netflix.
I just find it so funny because you're such a TV addict, and now you just you've only seen this now.
Well, I'll give my reason for that in a minute. So the story, for those of you and who haven't watched it like me, but like for the 95% of the rest of the world who've already watched it all, is the show is about the former wealthy Rose family who, after their accountant steals all their money, leaves them broke and basically homeless, and the only thing left is a small town they own called Schitts Creek. And upon arriving, the family of Johnny, Moira, David, and Alexis have to share a 2-bedroom motel room. Now, the reason I put off watching this show for a few years is almost everyone who's watched it said, oh yeah, it's really good now, but like the first season wasn't that great and it takes a few seasons to get going. Like around season 2 or 3, it gets really good. And I always and I was like, well, there's only 6 seasons. That's like half of the seasons. Am I really that? And I didn't realize it was like a Canadian one, so that I didn't realize it was going to be 10 episodes a season. So I was like, oh, is it going to be like 20 odd episodes a season? I thought it was like more like a traditional old style kind of one. And I just didn't really feel like watching it. However, I then watched Eugene Levy's travel show on Apple, and it's a really good show. He doesn't like traveling, and they made him travel all over the world, and that's where the humor from the show comes from. But there's so many times you'll be somewhere like an amazing place in the world, and you're like, oh yeah, my son Daniel told me about this, or oh, I wish my son, and you can the love for his son really comes through in the show. And of course, I finally put the links together, and I think it might have been when we were talking about it. Recently, I wanted something to watch late night. When you kind of watch something before you go to doze off to, that you can easily flick back 10-15 minutes if you have dozed off through, and just an easy watch before you go to bed. And I was like, okay, I'm finally going to get into Schitt's Creek. And I think in about the last month, I have done all 6 seasons. So all 60 plus, I think it's about 63, 64 episodes, because I think there's a few seasons where there was like 12, maybe just the last one. But yes, I have done the whole series in about the last month. And so, yeah, sorry. First of all, I want to say that the first season isn't bad. It is not bad in any way. It's absolutely fine. I would say it's a good show in the first series, even maybe a great show, but then it becomes an amazing show as it goes on. And you have to go through the character arcs and the slow potting and not even slow potting. You have to go through the development of the characters, because this show is basically about the main 4 characters just realizing that they need to stop being selfish and just growing as people, and realizing that the town of Schitt's Creek where they live isn't like the asshole end of nowhere, that a punishment like they make it out to be. And I think it was at the end of season 1 where like they are out for dinner with their friends who are visiting, and their friends are just being complete dicks about the place. And they're sat there with Roland and Roland's wife, whose name I've forgotten. Jocelyn. They're sitting there with Roland and Jocelyn. And it's only then when Johnny kind of steps in and was like, actually, this town's really nice. These people are really good. And I was like, that's the first. And that, for me, that was a turning point there at the end of the first series, I think it is. And like, okay, shit, no, they're, and you could see it from that point. Oh, they're not, they're going to be better people as it goes on. Like, and again, let's talk about the core 4's arcs. Like Johnny, he learns how to become a successful businessman again from scratch. You have Moira going back to acting on her terms. And can I just mention Catherine O'Hara's pronunciations? Like, bebe. Honestly,
brilliant.
from this show onwards, she is the female Matt Berry in terms of taking a word and pronouncing it so weirdly
Yep.
that she makes every word just a delight to listen to.
Mhm.
She is female Matt Berry, and that is like the highest praise I can bestow upon her. We had a Ted and Alexis's storyline with a brief mutt sojourn, and then back to Ted and Alexis. And we had the show's key relationship, which comes in end of season 2, start of season 3, where Patrick comes in, I believe.
I think you know which one's my favorite relationship.
I've got a fact I found out, and I don't know if you know this. Did you know Abby Elliott was first offered the role of Alexis? So that's Sugar from The Bear.
I did not.
And of course, if she had been cast, that would have been she would have been the third child of an actor in the show. Because obviously, Daniel and Sarah, who plays Twyla in the show, are Eugene Levy's real children. And Chris Elliott, who plays Roland, Abby Elliott is his real life daughter.
I know that Dan Levy had to do basically like color in Annie's hair, because Eugene did not believe her as a blonde. And because Dan really wanted to cast her, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think she looks good blonde," so he had to basically Photoshop it. I think that's what I know. Like that's my fun fact.
Wow. Well, also one thing I didn't realize was have you seen the documentary?
No. I don't think I can emotionally ready of that, even though the show ended now like 4 years ago.
I went from the last episode of the show straight into the documentary because Netflix made me. So when I was away the other weekend, I had a bit of time to kill. I was like, okay, I'm going to finish it. And it's like a 45-minute documentary that starts on literally Daniel Levy has got someone filming him in his room as he wakes up to go to set on the first day of the last season. And oh my God, if you thought the last episode breaks you, like this documentary, like it's got them going to all like the LGBTQ rallies, and like they go to a club night somewhere where everyone's wearing the I like the wine, not the label shirts. That becomes its own movement because of the show.
Yeah, I mean that is just like, as someone who's also pan. I mean, I use that clip so many times because it's just such a good descriptor. Like when people ask me like, "What is it?" I'm like, "Have you seen Schitt's Creek?"
This is kind of I had a friend on Ships years ago, and worked with her. She was like the singer of the main production shows, and she was going out with one of the girls in our department, one of our photographers. And that's it. I worked with her once and her partner on one ship. I go to another ship, and she's on there, and and then I got transferred to the ship her partner was on. So she gave me like a necklace to bring with me, to give to her as a present.
Oh,
And I
that's
thought,
cute.
yeah, and I was like, oh, these guys are going to, be together for ages. And then I think 2 years down the line, they go to another contract, and she introduces me to her husband. Working on cruise ships is one of the gayest places in the world because you have so many people from different nationalities where they can't be gay in their own country safely. And on ships, I mean, karaoke night, it was all just soft rock ballads every time. Filipino karaoke all the time. The drag nights were insane on there. Like they would put to shame anything. Every party, there would be one big party called disco, always called disco for some reason. Every ship, no matter what ship you're on, once a cruise, there's a big crew party called disco, and it's always a theme party, always. And you'll see crews spend a whole week get ready for one party that lasts maybe 2 to 3 hours because no one can get there till they finish work around midnight, and then the bar closes at 1 in the morning. So everyone spends a week getting ready for this one big party that literally goes for about 2 hours. But that whole getting back to the whole I like the wine not label, that was literally what like my friend kind of explained. She goes, well, I fall in love with the person, doesn't matter who. And that was the best way anyone ever explained it to me to that point. And I'm watching this, I was like, that's exactly that point. And so taking that and putting it in like mainstream media and like a massive hit show, that surely for people who, and that's the great thing about a show like Schitt's Creek, I think, if it normalizes to such a wide audience, like a positive gay relationship. And that's actually what some of the guys, they in the documentary, I'm just looking for the comment someone said. Yeah, in the doc, there's and I forget who the contributor is. He says it's so great to see a gay relationship on TV that isn't built on struggle and trauma.
Yeah,
Just a positive, normal, happy relationship.
it is. It just they complement each other so good. It's like like, yeah, partly it's my favorite relationship because it's the queer relationship, but second of all, it's just they're so cute together and they complement each other and they support each other. It's a healthy relationship and it's so refreshing to see. Like, just like my favorite like moment between it is when they break up and like David gets showered with gifts and and it's just so funny where like Patrick is like, because they're still working together, so Patrick is just like, look, I've never done this before, like I've never worked with an ex with that, and David was like, well, I was wanted to get back together weeks ago, and I'm just like, oh, it's so cute but also so classic David. And then it also led to the iconic Simply the Best scene, which
I already called that was going to be like the wedding song. I just knew that's what it was going to be.
that makes me cry every single time. It's
But and
so
again,
pretty.
and in terms of how great the acting is, I because I had to Google afterwards, and actually the actor who plays Patrick, Noah Reed, isn't gay. He's married to a woman and has kids. And yet, again, that shows you that an actor that can play that type of, and this is again, when people are like, well, you should have had a gay actor. I was like, no, you have the best actor for the role. Doesn't matter, and that's the whole point of acting. Literally, like literally, that is what acting is. You should be able to come on and portray any type of person from any type of background. And if you're the best person to doing that role, it shouldn't matter what your background is. And I think that we are making good steps now in terms of colorblind casting, in color sexual. Is that even the phrase? Basically, it doesn't matter what your sexuality is. If you're the best one for the character, you play that character. You know. And at least we're getting there now. I feel like in terms of mainstream media, shows like Schitt's Creek absolutely will so far push that in like a positive direction. And like I say, for me, it's such a gentle hug of a show. Like there's not really any major, like you watch some sitcoms and then something really major happens that's heartbreaking, and like this doesn't do that. It's just really
No,
nice the whole way through it.
no, and like they do have like the stereotype of them like breaking up and getting back together, but it's like also
But you don't feel like it's gonna like they're
exactly.
not gonna be a part of a long. It's just like a minor thing, and or like you say with the gift giving thing, they already mine such humor from it almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one joke that really got me in the last wedding day when he gets the happy ending massage, and I thought, is that gonna derail the wedding? And the fact that they just gets over it, and like that made me crack up.
I do watch that scene when I'm like sad. And it's just like when he's just like all I said is I gave the guy a bunch of money, told him to make you as happy as can be,
And now I
and
realize how that sounds.
it's so good. But then it like follows it up with like the house scene, which oh my god breaks me. Like when they decide to stay actually there. And that is just such a beautiful scene.
Well, that's David's arc, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's all the family's arc to a point. I mean,
Yeah.
like David's is like, oh, I want to get back to New York, but then why do you want to get back to New York when your husband is here? Your store that you've built from nothing is here, and he realizes like there that if Patrick's not into it, and then like I forget who is it Alexis says to him, and I goes, but none of your friends who you invited from New York came.
Yeah, Stevie. Like they have the heart to heart on the
Stevie, sorry,
car.
that's it. It's Stevie, sorry. And I was like, holy shit, that's like an anvil of a line to drop on him. And then he's right. And then David realizes he doesn't need New York. He just needs Patrick.
Yeah.
And I liked Alexis as well, how she becomes less self-obsessed and
Hmm.
working on herself. And I love that she doesn't define herself by any romantic relationship as the show goes on.
Yes.
And her and Ted break up with each other because neither of them want to stop each other being responsible for taking their dream job. I mean, obviously Alexis isn't quite her dream job yet, but she went back to school. She got a degree. She started doing
I mean, that's
PR for her mum.
realistic. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
she was a nepo baby, to be fair. But it's funny because there was someone at my office who does remind me of Alexis, and she's like, "Wait, is that the really?" I was like, "She's the most fashionable one in the show, so be happy that's a comparison." And I just love that they decide to break up to not stop it being away of each other's dreams. And because I didn't think Ted was going to be around for long, and then I was surprised when he came back, and then I was surprised when they were doing the long distance thing. So yeah, like we mentioned, Johnny starts. He goes from like working at the hotel to like now co-owning it with Stevie and having his like. And I loved his scene in the last episode when they go to the. It's either the last or the second last one, isn't it? When they go to the big meeting in New York, and they send the jet, and everyone's being dicks to them behind the thing, and it's Roland who walks in and hears it. I mean, again though, even with that, you could think, oh, this is the big obstacle. Oh no, it's all this. They're pinning everything on this deal. But the second you meet the young Asian lady, you know she's going to be the one who does the deal with them, or something's going to happen from the way she's like, oh yeah, I remember like going in one of your stores when I was a kid and all this kind of stuff. You're like, from that point, I was like this is, even if it doesn't work out how they think it's going to work out, it's going to work out because she's going to be involved in it. And literally, she comes up to them and goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to leave here and start my own company, and we want to work with you." I was like, "Yes." And I love Stevie. Stevie's development I was brilliant as well. Like I love Stevie. She was one of my favorite characters. She's just so awkward all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like so,
but also so sassy. Like I love
Yeah.
it, and I love her and David's relationship as well. It was just like they have such a beautiful friendship.
It's when she realizes that. Well, it's when he says to her, "You're my best friend."
Oh, it's so sweet. Talk about relationships. I mean, this one hasn't like changed, but like Moira's and Johnny's is just so
Rock solid from day
rock
one, isn't it?
solid from day one. But like knowing Moira's like personality, you're just like Johnny's a very patient man. Like it's just so funny, but their relationship is also so cute.
I remember watching because when I first started watching it recently, I watched the first episode with my old man downstairs, and he kind of liked it. But then when Moira started screaming at everything in the motel room, I could just see him wincing. I was like, "You're not going to stick with this." I was like, "Oh, I'll watch the next one. Yeah, some other time. That's fine." We just had like 20 minutes to kill, and I thought, we'll just watch the first one and see what it's like. And the thing that absolutely blew my mind towards the end was Twyla's revelation that she's worth 45 million. And I just love Annie Murphy's reaction, like as Alexis, just see her like she can't compute that all the time. And she's like, so I thought the revelation when she said that was that she owns a diner, and she still didn't even own the diner. And like Alexis goes, perhaps you should like do something for yourself. And so she buys the diner. I was like, I thought she would have just owned the diner anyway. That's crazy to me because we never see who owns the diner, do we? I don't think. Maybe in some of the early episodes, but you only ever see Twyla there, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Goes on. And that just made me. I was like, and then she obviously buys, and she's like, and again it shows you Alexis's growth where Twyla comes and says, "Well, I'll buy all these dresses off you for this, and here's a little something to get started," and she won't take that money.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, Christ, even season 3 or 4 Alexis would have took the money, So hers is probably like one of the biggest arcs from like Rich used to. I just love all her sideways to stories, as well that she comes out with, like backpacking through Korea or something, or they always like get really dark.
Yeah, when I was kidnapped, and it's just I always love like Johnny's and Moira's reaction. Especially when they like realized how much of absentee parents they were, and they were just like, "Wait, what? What?" Because they're now more active in their children's lives.
Well, and that's how the show goes at the end. They realize that they've spent these like 4 years of the show together. Well, however many years they've spent in Schitts Creek, and it's made them closer. It's made them better people. But also, they don't. Now it's time to move on with their lives. So, like you say, Moira and Johnny are going to go to LA for the show. Johnny's going to work out of there. Alexis is going to New York, and David and Patrick are going to stay in Schitts Creek. And Stevie is going to stay there, but she's going to travel around and basically like be a mogul. So, I mean, even like the little side characters, like Ray, the photographer, would cracks me up every time. He was just the man who has door shutter open. That cracked me up every time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and of course, I think moving on to the very last shot, I knew that was going to be the last shot of the show. I just didn't know what was going to be on the sign. Because I thought any kind of really great sitcom, they always tend to end with how they open it. Because, you look back and you're right, how did we start? Let's show the journey. And as they're driving out, and he looks back and I was like, what's the sign going to be? And I actually thought it would be something like they might change the name of the town to Rose Creek. And they didn't. They just put their faces on it.
It's on the very inappropriate billboard.
Yeah, it did look like Moira was, what's the phrase? Rogering Johnny over the stream. So that was brilliant. So, yeah, I am Schitts Creek. Well, now, Marie, you do know you have to watch the documentary.
Yeah. I mean,
Get yourself 3 or 4 donuts because you're going to need them. There's scenes where they're reading out like letters from people that have said about how the show's, and like everyone is just in pieces around the table.
Yeah. I mean, the show is like it's a very beautiful show, and it's but also like just very funny. It is one of those shows like you put it on and you're just gonna have like a good time and a warm fuzzy feeling of it. Yeah, it's so quotable. It's so quotable.
There are so many gifs. You noticed as I was watching it that I was using so many Schitt's Creek gifs.
I mean, you know me, I use them all
occasion.
the time. Like I use a David quote like daily. Like
the one where it's just someone's yelling. I mean, bear in mind we have a David on a podcast, and I don't think he watches show, so he just gets those gifs all the time now.
I think my favorite.
He does like a jumper as well.
Yeah. My favorite quote, I think he's like, I don't know what I've done in a past life to deserve this. It's probably Dracula or something. It's just the way he delivers that line is so good. And of course the, ew, David.
It's the hand movements Alexis does. She does so much. Her hands are like this the whole time. And for people who can see it, imagine a T-Rex, basically, is what I'm doing right now. That is how Alexis walks with her hands off. And it's just, it's such a great physical performance. I think we need to see Annie Murphy in more stuff, because the first thing I ever saw her in was actually Joan is Awful on the Black Mirror episode.
Oh, I saw her in a show that I don't think I ever finished it, where she like did it right after Schitts Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself.
Yes, that was her in that. That was it. I kept wanting to watch it because it dropped on Netflix. It got cancelled, I think, but I liked the idea of it.
I like the idea of it, but then the execution wasn't that great. Like I don't think I stuck with it after. I think I almost finished the first season, but afterwards I didn't. But like, if you still are interested, I would recommend it. Like I don't, unless it's like extremely horrible. I never stop anyone from watching a show.
as I mentioned in the cold open, I have a lot to watch right now.
You're currently watching. I mean, I always think that I'm like a film and TV buff, and then I speak to you, and you just put me to shame. Whereas
it's weird though, because I go between things of some weeks it is like all I do is films every night, and I'll go to cinema and see like 3 films or 4 films in a week, and then other times it might be 2 weeks before I watch a film. But I am just binging every series under the sun. I mean, honestly, we will be doing an episode, and spoiler, I'm already going to tell you what it is. Well, it's a spoiler section. That's fine. It's Apple TV Plus. Honestly, the quality and the output, they don't have as much as the other channels, but even now they're starting to muscle in. Like Netflix, one thing we can always say is, despite them being dicks and cancelling any of their fantasy shows or young adult queer shows, they have a shitload of foreign shows on there that you've never heard of. But Apple TV is starting to put on a lot of foreign shows now. There's that German show called Where's Wanda? And for 1 minute I thought, wait, is this the WandaVision spin-off I didn't know about? And it's not. It's a German comedy mystery murder show. And then there's a French fashion show that's just dropped on there as well, which I don't know the name of, but obviously that definitely sounds it should be like something you would watch. So,
yeah.
I don't know the name of it. It's French. It's about fashion. It's on Apple TV Plus.
Interesting. I mean, you kind of put me off the fact that it's French, but, you know.
I mean, aren't they like Marie just defending all our French listeners? So apologies to the 2 or 3 people that may have listened to us on holiday in France once. Right, I believe that is drawing us to a close today on this episode of We Needed Road. I believe it's under 3 hours of recording time for once, which is a big, it's great for me.
It's great for you.
So I'd like to thank Marie today, who definitely did not cry or at all as much as she pre-warned us she might.
Yeah, the mascara stayed in place. I mean...
So where can people find you on the socials? I'm
known on the interwebs as Life on Mars, like the David Bowie song. So I am on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I've been live tweeting a lot about Heartstopper on there. So if you want to get my genuine reaction as I was watching the show, check out Twitter. But you can also find me on my own podcast called 2 Girls, 1 Reusable Cup, which is all about living a low-waste lifestyle in your 20s. And 20s, that's available on all major podcast streaming platforms. And you can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter as well.
And you can find me at Needed Roads on Twitter. Yes, I forgot the we when I set it up, and now it's just too late to do anything about it.
I was wondering about that.
Yes, I forgot the we. I didn't know how Twitter worked when I set it up. It was just this thing. And so I'm pretty active daily on Twitter. You know, I post like trailers, links to all kinds of good stuff on there. We got some really good followers who have some amazing stuff that's worth checking out as well. Also, David runs our Instagram at We Needed Road. He remembered the we. And you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major podcast platforms. So give us a subscribe and follow there. And of course, this is now our 3rd video episode, which you've either been listening to or watching on YouTube. Hopefully, you've been watching it on YouTube so you can see my impersonation of a T-Rex of Alexis Arms at the end of the episode. And as the kids say, give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, folks.
We needed roads.